Imagine soaring 39,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean, when suddenly the engines fail. No power, no fuel, just endless water below, nowhere to land. Just the faint hum of air rushing past the fuselage as the plane turns into a powerless glider. Think about it. Hundreds of lives hanging in the balance, with no guarantees of survival. What would you do if survival seemed impossible? This isn't fiction. This is the chilling reality, faced by the passengers and crew of Air Transat Flight 236, a flight that defied the odds and turned a sure disaster into a story of survival that still leaves people speechless to this day. It was a quiet summer night on August 24, 2001. Air Transat Flight 236, an Airbus A330, was carrying 293 passengers and 13 crew members on a routine journey from Toronto, Canada, to Lisbon, Portugal. For most passengers, it was just another flight. Families were settling in for the long trip, some watching the in-flight screens, while others dozed off under their blankets. The pilots, Captain Robert Pichet and First Officer Dirk de Jager, were seasoned professionals. They had done this route countless times before. Everything was routine. But beneath the calm exterior, a silent problem was brewing. One that would soon push everyone on board to the brink of catastrophe. 3 hours into the flight, the cockpit received its first clue, a warning about a fuel imbalance between the two engines. At first, it didn't seem alarming. Fuel imbalances, though uncommon, could be resolved by transferring fuel between tanks. A standard procedure the pilots followed without hesitation. But then, more warnings appeared. Something wasn't adding up. The imbalance wasn't stabilizing. In reality, what the pilots didn't yet know was that a tiny crack in a fuel line was causing a leak, rapidly draining their precious supply of jet fuel. And by transferring fuel between tanks, they were unknowingly speeding up the loss. As the aircraft crossed the midpoint of its journey, the point of no return, things took a dramatic turn. At 4:45 a.m., cruising over the pitch-black Atlantic, the warning became reality. Engine 2 has failed. For any pilot, losing one engine mid-flight is a serious problem, especially over open water. But the crew remained composed, shifting power to the remaining engine and contacting air traffic control to declare an emergency. However, just as they began plotting a course to the nearest land, disaster struck again. 13 minutes later, Engine 1 failed too. In an instant, the massive Airbus A330 was now a powerless glider, 39,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling as the plane lost altitude. Passengers clutched their loved ones, whispered prayers, and stared out at the dark, unforgiving ocean below. Some cried. Others sat frozen in silence. In those moments, every second felt like an eternity. The crew, under immense pressure, worked tirelessly to maintain order. They knew the slightest panic could escalate into chaos, and their calmness kept everyone grounded, figuratively and literally. With no power, no thrust, and limited control, Captain Pichet's skills were put to the ultimate test. He had to glide the 200-ton aircraft toward Lais Air Base, a military runway designed for fighter jets, not commercial airliners. As they neared the island, they faced another problem. The plane was too high and coming in too fast. To make the landing, Captain Pichet performed a series of sharp, spiraling turns to slow the descent. Imagine the sensation. A massive aircraft, spiraling down in complete silence, every movement carefully calculated. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Flight 236 touched down on the runway. The tires burst from the impact, the brakes strained under the pressure, but the plane came to a stop. Against all odds, all 306 people on board survived.